This is Kathy with JLB. I am bringing you another episode in the Chase Our Family Back in Time, showing you how to do stuff on the Family Tree Maker and sharing some of the information that I found of the generations that have gone uh, on. So what we're going to do now, we are going to tie my dad and mom back into this is the Johnson and the Hankins lines. They're going to go back. That's the Johnson line. This is the Hankins line. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go. I'm in dad's daughter, of course. So I'm going to bring me up, and my husband is Tim, of course. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on Timmy's line. His dad was John Shirley Kincaid. He um, passed away 15 years ago, guys. Um, he was, he suffered from diabetes real bad, but he was a good fella. He really was. They had 5 kids. They lost Danny when he was only 19. Uh, then of course he passed away in 2010. So his daughter Ellie is gone. So the 3 boys, Timmy, David, and Matthew, are still living. But because they're living, I'm not going to bring them into this particular genealogy. I have it in my other one. But for what all intents and purposes of this one, we're going to chase their family back in time and information that I have about them. I've got a couple of little cheat sheets over here. So I had already put in those, and I was working on James Ray. So you highlight this and you bring this little arrow up, and it will now put him in as the primary person. So we're going to put in his birthday, which was December the 3rd, 1908. He was one of, I want to say, one of 5 kids. Um, him and his brother Clarence were the only 2 that made it to adulthood. The other 3, 2 other sons and a daughter, passed away when they were young. And now the whole family is no longer existent. But James, or they called him Ray, he went by Ray, and he married Barbara Ellen. I'm going to put her other name in it. Siney Ellen Bryant. So now that brings the whole family in. Let's see. She was born, let's see, September the 18th of, no, that's when they got married. She was born May the 14th. That's on Jim's birthday. I spoke to one of Timmy's cousins last night, had a really good visit. Really good visit. Um, 19, she was born 1913. I have this, what they call an Affendale chart, which is the ancestors. That's what I'm getting my information off of. I know I wouldn't have to do this. I could actually take you into and let you see all the stuff that I have on file, but I haven't got it completed. And when you're going back and putting stuff in that you've collected for over 40 years, you want to make absolutely sure that that information is correct. I can't stress this enough. Find you at least 3 sources that will tell you the same information, because a lot of people will just say that you have, like I have one going in here in just a minute that's called William Washington Toney. That is Timmy's grandfather. So when I have done research, there is actually two William Washington Tonys, married completely different people in different time frames. I mean, one of them was probably 80 to 90 years older than the other one. So you have to be really careful and double check your facts. Double check them. Try to get your facts from a reliable source. Best sources are, of course, birth records, death records, tombstones. Mostly you'll have really good records on tombstones. Marriage records will give you a lot of information. The census is absolutely awesome because it will give you who is all in the family, their ages, what year they were born in. So you can verify a lot of your information from census takers. And there is a lot of these census online. So there is a lot of ways of getting your three sources is what I'm trying to tell you. So just try to get those three sources lined up, and you don't have to get them all at the same time. If you have like I have Ellen's birthday. If you can't get but the one source, say your aunt or Timmy's aunt told you that's when she was born, that's your first source. And then you can go and you can look through birth records. There's a place in Charleston called the West Virginia Archives. You can go in there and sign in. Pretty sure they haven't charged. When I was using it in the past, it was no charge to go in. They have marriage records, birth records, and death records. And that is a very good place to confirm the information that somebody else has given you. So that will give you two sources. If somewhere along the line you find a grave where they're buried at, and you might find a tombstone. Now, in the case of Sonny Ellen, which is what they called her back in the day, she has those two tombstones. Her grave is marked simply with a rock. And she was buried with her youngest daughter, Marie. So there's actually two in that grave. Now, the reason that I know that is because Timmy's dad and several other people in the family have told me this. I have confirmed the death of both Sonny Ellen and Marie, that they died at the same time. And the people that were there told me that they were both buried together in that gravestone. I have went to the Terry Cemetery and have been showed on a few occasions that that's where she was buried at. So you have to do your research and find out, because anybody that's new, that's coming into this, that knows there's a Sonny Ellen in the family, if they go up to the Terry Cemetery without knowing the specific spot of where that rock is at, they're never going to find her. There's no name, there's no nothing, just simply a rock. And that's the way they did it back in the day. They didn't have markers that they put on. So, and those things are lost in time to people that if the younger generation is not paying attention to the older generation, they're not going to know. So say my granddaughter has a little girl. So when she gets old enough, maybe she'll pick up the love for genealogy that I have. Well, she might be able to find that information online in all the archive sites, but she's never going to find the grave because it's not marked. She's going to know where she was buried at, but she's not going to know the specific site at that cemetery. So that is why I'm doing this, so that I can relay all that information. I have this information in another file that I have on this same computer, but I wanted to bring you all back to the bare bones of how you have to do, and to tell you the importance that I feel it is to learn this stuff. There is a lot of medical history in both sides of the family that is a direct correlation with the problems that the ancestors have, that we're having now, that could possibly plague our children in the future. But with the advancements that they have in medical history, if you already know that you have a history of colon cancer, just say you have a history of colon cancer in your family, then and you tell that to your doctor, and you can prove that this person, this person, this person in your direct family passed away from breast cancer, colon cancer, whatever, heart disease, diabetes, whatever it is, they will know to monitor you better and to get you help sooner so that you have a better success rate than your grandmother did or your grandfather did. So that's where we're at in society today, is making sure that all the information, from the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever, is brought down from the ancestors to now. And stress this point 100 times, your ancestors, surviving everything that they had to do in the past, is what got you alive today. Because if they had gotten killed by being crazy or stupid back in the day, there's no way you would have been born. So just be thankful to whatever happened to them in the past, that they had the strength and they had God on their side and they survived long enough for you to be here. So instead of fussing at your ancestors about blah, 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 say thank you. I'm glad I'm here. And now I'm going to take my life and I'm going to make something of it. I'm going to go forward. You might have to struggle in your day, but I don't want to, or if I do, I want to have the same grace you did to survive and raise my kids so they can have kids. Because quite frankly, guys, we're not having enough kids in the United States. That's why that's what I told my husband. I said, that's why when you go to the fast food restaurants around all over the place and it's got help wanted signs, it ain't that their kids aren't wanting to work like everybody keeps saying. There's no kids to work. Nobody's having more than 1 or 2 kids at the most. And those entry-level jobs into McDonald's and places like that are only the kids are the only ones that can get those jobs. And then the people that have those positions of hiring them will only work them 15 hours a week. Well, that's okay for a kid that's still at home with their parents, but you can't afford that to stay out on your own. So then it's more, again, more cost effective for them to stay on the system. So we need to come up with a solution. If you're going to offer a part-time job and the kid has enough time to work 30 hours a week, give them 30 hours. Don't give them 3 hours a day and come back 3 hours after tomorrow. And come on, guys, you all work, y'all know, work them. If you're going to give them 6 hours a week, work them 6 hours that day. Give them enough time to go get them a job somewhere else. Don't string them along like that. That's not nice. Anyway, I'm going to get off that tangent and back on to my genealogy. So we're going to go back to James Ray. He was born in Victor, West Virginia, Fayette County, West Virginia. He died July the 28th, 1948. Now, the story of his death is particularly sad because he was going to work. He worked at a gas station, and he was going to work. He had to walk from his house to the gas station to go to work. While walking on the side of the road, 2 young boys were drag racing and hit him so hard it knocked him into the gas pumps. And it says on his death certificate he died of a severed spine. It's just what happened. But the family then had to survive. They had already lost their mother, and now they lost their father. So I have to give my father-in-law the respect he's due for coming from that crazy beginning of losing both your mother and your father before you're 18 years old. And then being able to have the strength and the ingenuity to go up, become a father, become a good worker, take care of his family. So those are important qualities that are being passed down from generation to generation. And you have them, if you're a young one watching this, you have those qualities. Just look back on what it was that made the strength in your parents. If they were strong, if they were strict with you, it's because they have a reason to be strict. It's not that um, they may have had a strict upbringing of their own. They may have had lived through some stuff that they're being overly cautious with you. So just, as a child, as a young one, give your parents a little bit of grace. And if you're an older that your parents have already passed by, remember all the strength it took them to get from point A to point B and to raise you up to be who you are today. Because regardless of what you say, they give you the beginning and that give you the start to go forward in what you're doing now. So now we're going to go to see, he died also in Victor, because that's where the gas station was at. All right, so they got married in September of, let's see, 1930. And she is buried, let's bring her up. She died in 1939. She died January the 4th, 1939. The story with her is it was in the wintertime, and she was returning back home from wherever it was she had been visiting. And the creek had swollen. Um, rather, was it was big enough that she had to walk through the water to get to the other side, and it was fairly deep, but not over her head deep, if I understand the story right. But she got soaking wet. And in January, that is the thing that you don't want to do. And she was a pretty good size with Marie. So when she got home, she got sick, and in giving birth to Marie, she did not survive through the other end because for whatever reason. And Marie was so small, I guess she was premature and she didn't survive. So they're both buried at the Terry Cemetery in Fayette County, West Virginia. Okay. This is also Victor. But those are the stories that I have been able to find out, and there's so many more, guys. There's just so many more stories. But I want to make sure I will go through in my one that I've got and make sure that these stories are in there. So when I print the book out, you will be able to actually read those stories. And they had, in addition to Dad, they had Clarence. Let's see. Oh, I don't have, but Clarence Lee, I think. And he was a male. They had Richard, and they had Kenneth, and they had Marie. No, female. All right, so those are the 5 children that James Ray and Sonny Ellen Kincaid had. She passed away in 1939. So Dad would have only have been, he wouldn't quite have been 5 years old yet. So that would be hard for a child that little to lose their mother. But James took care of that, or Ray took care of that problem in 1930, no, in 1940. So it was, let's see, less than 6 months later, he married Otheni, Edith Otheni Settle. He married her on June 24th, 1940. That was to help take, I'm sure he knew her long enough to think that he wanted to be married to her, but he had two young sons. So he wanted some help taking care of those two young sons because he still had to work and take care of them. And, all that stuff was necessary at that time. You had to have you had to have a man that was out working, providing for the family, and a woman in the house to take care of it. Now, story goes, she was not she did not like the two boys very well. Now, whether she did or she didn't, I never personally talked to Otheni, just heard the stories from Dad, and it was not a great relationship between the two of them. And so they stayed a lot over here with who they called Aunt Becky, who became their um, step in grandmother. But they survived. Both both John and Clarence survived their childhood, grew up, got married. Clarence was in the service for a long time, and then he built ships. So there's a lot of stories that we can write in the book about him. This is more or less to tell you little tiny bits, and then to get you to get encouraged to go and look for your own stories in your own family, because they're in everybody's family. Just because somebody doesn't really want to talk about them, it's because somebody's never asked them. Somebody has never said, um, tell me about your history. And once you get somebody talking, the first thing they're going to tell you is, I don't know anything. That's what my mama said. My mama said when I started is, I don't know anything, Kathy. I didn't pay attention. But when I started finding out stuff, and I would tell her what I found out, she, oh yeah, I remember that, and this and this and this and this went on with it. So, I will show you at some point in time all of the notes that I took from my mom, Timmy's mom, and various people that I just talked to and took the notes down as I was going on the dates that I took them so that they could become the stories that I put in this history. So when we go on to James Ray's dad, his name was John G. Kincaid. He lived in Golly Bridge area. They, according to what I understand, he is buried at the Jamoka Cemetery. Timmy has said if we can figure out how to get there, he will take me down. Now, whether the guy has a marker, I do not know. But he was born in 1889. It just says in West Virginia. But I know it was down in the Golly Bridge area, but because I don't have that specifically, I'm just going to leave it in West Virginia, because I know that he was born in, or I assume he was born in Golly Bridge area, somewhere around Jamoka, but that I haven't proved yet. So I don't want to put that in until I prove it. Let's see, it says he died in 1916 in Fayette County. Whoops. Make sure you hit the shift button. Okay. And, oh, no, sorry. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. He died in Talcott, Summers County. West Virginia. But he was buried in Jamocha at the Kincaid Cemetery, Brownsville, Fayette County. He married Elizabeth Ruth Bryant. They called her Lizzie. And she was born July the 4th. What a day to be born. July the 4th, 1888 in Fayette County. Well, I guess it would be. July the 4th, 1888. I put too many eights in there. She was born in Fayette County. When you're born in the same county, you pretty much know that somewhere you come across each other. That's how you met. So that's the interesting stories that I'm wanting to find. I don't know whether I ever will uh, find out exactly how people met. Because see, she was born in Fayette County, and he was born down in Golly Bridge. So how did they come together to even meet in the first place? So that is the story that is elusive to me right now, but we will find it out. And so they had, of course, James Ray, Charles Lee, and it says John A. Kincaid. So they had 3 kids before he passed away. He passed away in, I'm going to delete this one. You just go up to person and hit delete person, because I want to, this is this is why you have to watch. And I did not. I uh, merged this in from somebody. But this says John A. Kincaid was born July the 25th, 1880. Now it says his dad wasn't born until 1889. So you know this John A. Well, you'll find out in a second. But this John A. could not possibly have been John G's son. But he died, John A. died June the 2nd, 1881. So it could have been his brother that they just put in as his son. So that one is incorrect. We must take that out in the other book, because that is an incorrect statement. You really, even as good as I am at watching, that was one mistake that left me. So that one will have to be taken out of my original file so that he does not come up under John G. And that's why you can pull these up. This is called an Affindale chart. And it's just simply them and their ancestors all the way back. And it brings down the brothers and sisters when you get back to the next generation. So we will have to, now I do know personally that James Ray Kincaid, which was Timmy's dad's dad, and Charles Lee were brothers. They were the 2 brothers that were born under from John G. and Elizabeth Bryant. That's the ones that were born. Now, Charles was hit by a train on his way, him and his boss was on his way to work, and they had a lady friend with them. Some said it was Charles's lady friend. It could have been the boss's lady friend. I don't know. But anyway, they got struck by a train in a truck, and all three of them passed away. So there are um, things. And then, of course, his wife remarried again, too. So we could travel down that one, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to do the direct line backs. So John G's dad was Simon Wyatt Kincaid Sr. So now, if he was a senior, then there has to be, of course, a junior. We'll put them in a minute. His mother was Mary Caroline Rosie. And this is as far back as I'm going to go on this side, and I'll go back and do the Tonys. We have Simon, that is the junior. We have, of course, John G. We have Roxy, Geneva, Minerva, Charles, Will, Annie, see if they have any other ones. Gosh, it looks like they have quite a few of them. Then they have Minnie, Dale, William McKinley, Cora E. Early. I'm assuming that's a male, not knowing. I'll change it if it isn't. Eddie or Edie, Love, Esther, and Edna Doris. Doris. So they had 14 kids. So they were popular and propagated into the new generation. They're not doing that so much these days. I will go in and do Elizabeth Ruth's. Her dad's name was John Thomas Bryant and Francina Sylvie. And they had Elizabeth Ruth, William, James Rosencrantz. That's a name. Mary Jane. Violet. Elizabeth Ruth. Rebecca. This is his Aunt Becky. Robbie. Jay. Francina, which I think must be the one that they called Frankie. Philip. Barbara. and Lily Alice. Okay. So now that is the families of Timmy's mom and dad. Now, if you want to find this, you simply follow the little arrows back, the one that's filled in, and then you'll come back to Timmy. So we want to bring up Timmy's mom and we'll put her dad's name, which is William Washington Tony. He was born June the 13th, 1902. He was born in Gatewood. All right. And he passed away December the 10th, 1994. He was 92 years old. My grandma Pridemore lived till she was 95, and Timmy's dad lived, or grandpa lived till he was 92. So we are hoping to have another good 30 years in us. Hold that thought. Okay, and they got married July the 20th. That's when my daughter was born. That's when my grandparents were married on the 20th of July. My sister and her husband was married on the 20th of July. And then my daughter come along and she was born on the 20th of July. They were married in 1931 in Fayetteville. That was a popular place to go get married back in the day. Oops. I don't know how I got the Q in there, but let's get it out of there. Okay. So now they had um, James Ralph and Charlie, Harrison, who was the not POW, MIA. He was missing in action in the Korean War. I think his name was William Harrison. And let's see, have David Parker, and they had Clara. Oh, she's up there. Then they had Franklin. They have Evelyn. And they have Philip. All right, so there's their parent. He married Nellie, Irene, no, Nellie, yeah, Nellie Irene Holiday. And she was born January the 20th. It was told to me, although I did not talk to Grandma Tony about it because I really didn't know. She passed away in 1980 before I got started too much in the genealogy. But they said that they told her that her son was missing in action on her birthday in 1951, I believe, because he'd been missing for a whole year. But that's one of the breaks of sending people to the service. But there was a lot of good stories come out of that, which I will put into the book when I write it. so that everybody will know what was told to me. And we do have paperwork from the government about his MIA status, so I'll put that in there as well. So you'll be able to know that the information that I collected is as true and accurate as I can be. So now William Washington's dad was Joseph Edward Tony. Grandpa Tony always told us that his grandpa, not his dad, but his grandpa was Italian. I searched and searched and searched, and the only thing that I can come up with that we are a direct line back on the Tony side came from England. So if anybody out there has any that's in the family that has any directions of how he thought his grandfather was Italian, because he said he spoke Italian and he didn't understand hardly a word of what he said. So I'm not sure how his grandfather got to be speaking Italian, um, because England would have been speaking English. So I'm not sure. I will not discount what Grandpa said, but I have not been able to actually prove that. But he could have been born in England and went to um, Italy, you know, with somebody that he knew and learned Italian. Maybe he preferred Italian to English. I do not know. And he, unfortunately, Grandpa and the second grade is not here, so we cannot ask them. We just have to follow the data that these computers, which I fuss at all the time, are able to give us. So we are going to keep researching it. But as of right now, the Tony line goes back to England. Okay, and her mother, or his mother, was Nanny Bell Bennett. And they had, of course, William Washington, had Grace, who died. I think she died young, and they are buried in the Bibb Cemetery, and she is buried between Grandpa Joe and Grandma Nanny. So they're great, and I have been over and seen those. So that is a personal testament from me. Timmy took me over there, showed me where Grandpa Joe is buried and Grandma Nanny is buried, and in between them, the grave, the little small grave for Grace. So that I have seen personally. Okay, she was a female. And then we have Nellie, who was also female. Annie Lee. We have William Washington. We have Bertha. We have Luther Harrison. And Corey. Corey, I don't have hardly anything about. I'm assuming it is a male. It very well could have been a female. Not sure, because I don't really have that much information. It's just one that's come up. It may be one of those that I delete off their site when I do more information. So there's so many names in my computer that I'm picking one and doing more research on it. But these names are the correct names of the grandparents. That's why I'm not going into any details of the aunts, uncles, all that stuff. I'm just not going to go into a lot of detail on those. I'm just basically showing you what to do as you're chasing stuff back. There are informations that you can find. There are places, but be very wary of just simply saying with your mind that everything that you put into your genealogy is going to be 100%. You can give it to probably 80% if you get the 3 sources that you're doing. When I get done here, I'll take you back into mine and I'll show you my source list of the different sources that I have been able to use and pull in and double check and everything. So, um, Nellie's was John, I think his name was John Washington Holiday, but they always called him Jack. And trying to think because I don't have it on there. I'm thinking, guys. Let me go back and look because I didn't pull that up. Let me go back into the Johnson side. This is my family tree that I have all the names. Okay, we got to bring up Nellie Holiday, Clara Hassadine Parrish. I should have known that because that's my mother-in-law's name. Okay, I'll go back to my family tree. They called her Hassie instead of, okay, his wife's name was Clara Hassadine Parrish. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back to, okay, so we now have the sites. We have both sides back three generations from Timmy. So that is where I'm going to stop with this. I do have a lot more information. My goal in doing this is to give you the basics of what you need. I'm going to do a little thing. Current person needs to be yellow. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, it's going to show it under him yellow. Huh. Let's see. Oh, so we could color code them. All the Kincaids could now be yellow. Isn't that cool? I just learned that. I just learned that. Let's see if I can do all ancestors one color. Look at that, guys. Look, look, look. So now if I go down and I do her, say I want all of her ancestors to be blue. Look, guys, now whenever I pull it up, I'll know what lines that it comes from. I'm going to do that on my side. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, that will be awesome. I don't know why she didn't come up yellow. Let's see. Let's pull this up with him. Do all ancestors yellow. Oh, look, it splits it up between the Tonys and the Kincaids, so you know that it goes back on both sides. This one, because it's yellow, it goes back that side, but because he's also kin to them, it goes back like that. Oh, wow, that's going to be cool. I'm going to do that on mine, and I'll bring you in and show you that being done. All right, guys, for today, I'm going to take you back on the other side and show you my sources so that you'll know that I do practice what I preach. Okay, we are going to go to publish, and we're going to do, I gotta find it, source reports. Source usage. See, you can go down. This is basically on Nellie Holiday. And everybody, look, these are all the sources that can tell you where I found the information from. They bring up the sources right here. So the stuff that I bring in, I always try to put a source with it so that you'll be able to know if you ever If I ever get the book finished and you want to, see the sources, the source for that particular person will be with that particular person in the book. All right, guys, I am going to cut it off and edit this video and get it up for you. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.